Are buyers really liars, or are they just confused? So in this episode, we want to discuss how these buyers are starting their home search at the outer ring of the bullseye, not the inner ring. We make this assumption as real estate agents that all of a sudden buyers just wake up one day and they know exactly what they want. And, oh, it's so convenient that we're going to be referred to them, or we're going to meet them at an open house, or we're going to bump into them somewhere, and everything's just going to be so smooth and easy. And that's absurd. It's just ridiculous. So let's talk about this, right? The first point being is that the outer ring of a bullseye. So I want you to imagine a bullseye with all of its rings headed towards the center, right? Known as the bullseye. So, again, if you don't play darts, just go Google it. Watch somebody try to hit the bullseye right in the middle. And oftentimes they're all on the outside, right? Trying to move in, trying to get that bullseye. So that's the truth in real estate and in a buyer search, that the outer ring of the bullseye is the necessary starting point in any search process, because you don't really know completely what you want. And when you think about it, when you Google search anything, or these days if you Bing search with AI, and even you're having a chatbot conversation and you're searching, you're always at the outer ring. It's not like there's this instantaneous, quick process that gets you exactly what you want. You do some homework. If you're smart, you definitely do some homework, given the size of the transaction here. And the lifestyle change. What is it that's most important to you about the lifestyle? So oftentimes we believe because the internet is just so convenient that we can look up these properties, look at all these digital plans, and walkthroughs are getting more and more interesting, especially with Matterport, and technology is getting better. So you have a pretty darn good idea of what that property's like, but not really until you physically go there, because we're still humans. We're not robots. So we want to go there and feel these places and see what they're like. So that can be a confusing process in and of itself. In the early days of my real estate career, there was no internet. I mean, you had a booklet that came out every 2 weeks, and you would peruse it, and then you would do a lot of drive-bys. Now, again, I think there's a big cut down on the drive-bys because we do have this technology, and we can make some cuts, per se, online. And on our phones these days. Oh, that wouldn't work for me. I don't like this. I don't like that. Great. You can save the gasoline and maybe the electric charge and stop driving around and seeing all these properties. That helped. But you're still not sure until you go into a property. And a lot of buyers get caught up in this per square foot concept. What's the price per square foot? Well, what does that matter if all of a sudden the ceilings are too low, or the layout's all chopped out, or the sun doesn't come in at the right time of day, or I'm staring at a brick wall outside the windows? You see, I could go on and on and on about all of the features. And that's the section of the buyer plan that I'm in here, talking about this process, where we're considering the features of a property. So when we begin, we have this massive list of what we think as a home buyer we might like. Let that sink in. What we might like. And we have these preconceived notions of our biases on what we think is important to us until we actually get in that process. So we're definitely starting at the outer ring. The second point here is that buyers are definitely not liars when you help them rather than take from them. So this is something that's subtle. A lot of real estate agents, we fashion ourselves as good people. We think we are in that fiduciary role to do the best that we can, but we can't help but be human and business people that have financial needs. We need to sell properties if we're going to sustain ourselves in this business. So we're always pressing. And so when we're pressing, our perception of what's happening is that these buyers are most definitely lying to us. And that's just not the case. So what's happening there is, as you consider this, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, these people aren't doing exactly what I want them to do, so they must be lying to me. That must be the case I'm looking at here. And that's because you're technically trying to take what you need from them. So it's impossible to do that, right? So when you look at that from that standpoint, you cannot be a taker when you're trying to do this. You have to be a giver. And what does that mean? Well, if you give information to somebody that's early in this process, looking at all these features, and here's a simple tip for all you real estate agents. If you simply give them a printout of some pictures and details of properties that sold so they can see what the money's actually buying, well, then that's a give. That's not a take. Now, all of a sudden, they relax a little bit. They get a little bit less confused because they feel a little bit more informed. And now they begin to open up about what they're actually thinking. See, we expect a buyer, a home buyer, as agents to all of a sudden reveal to us everything that's on their mind when they're still sifting and sorting it out themselves. So how can they be clear to us? And what we then say is, oh, they're lying to us. They must be lying to us. Well, isn't that so lazy and convenient for us as real estate agents to assume that? That's ridiculous. It's like we're not paying attention to the actual, the heavy weight of the situation. And that leads to the third point and final point here. Let's have a reminder for real estate agents and home buyers who are listening to this, that this is a major financial and emotional decision for all buyers. I don't care who they are. I mean, again, people deal with that stress in different ways. They may not seem to you as a buyer's agent, or even if you're on the sell side and watching a buyer struggle with this, you may not realize that they're dealing with the stress of making this decision. And this has nothing to do with wealth. I have seen people that are extremely wealthy making recently a downsizing choice, and the stress was tremendous. They went back and forth to my listing. I happen to be on the listing side of this, and they came to several of my open houses without their agent. And I could see the stress of making this decision going back and forth. And I just stayed calm. And I said, what can I tell you about this place? Right. And let me tell you about the history of the building and the rehab of the situation. Let me tell you what it's been like to serve these folks as their agent. When I walk out to the left, I'm right down the hill to Whole Foods. And then when I go over the hill over there, I'm right into the Boston Common. I was able to inform them about the lifestyle, because when you're downsizing from the suburbs and then all of a sudden you're here, and I said, and one of the best features of this place is clearly the in-building parking. You don't have to deal with this in the snow and the slush and the rain. You can pull right in, downstairs, private elevator. So I was talking about the features, and then of course, features lead to benefits. These are the best features of this property. Here are the benefits. And we sold the property. And by the way, as a little aside, that was a big deal because for my seller, they were taking a big hit on it because there was a pending lawsuit inside of the situation. But I was able to fully articulate the benefit of paying a lesser price now, seeing through this lawsuit, and being on the other side of it with a great equity position. And that would free my seller up to move on and do what they wanted to do instead of staying in this house. So you see, there's a lot of emotions going on here. So why do we assume anybody's lying? As an agent, the burden should be on us to be excellent communicators. Let me summarize it this way. Many real estate agents and trainers like to quip that buyers are liars. And that thought is a terrible way to begin your approach to helping a home buyer. The simple truth is that buyers start their search at the outer ring of the bullseye, not sure of what they really want to buy. It's best to recognize that, as well as the fact that they might be stressed about making a large emotional and financial decision. Hey, if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so when we post a new video, you get notified.